go to John Hannah, the former
pleasure.
National Security Advisor to Vice President Dick Cheney. John, what do you make of this and the twin threat? You almost get a sense that China and Russia sort of plan this together and the twin fears that are building with both. What do you think?
Yeah, hi, Neil. I think this is, the nightmare scenario for American national security strategists is joining the forces, the resources, the populations of China together with Russia is something we've really never had to face before, other than the first few years after World War II. But we quickly had that Sino-Russia split that Henry Kissinger and President Nixon exploited so deftly. But to have these both together now with the single-minded purpose of undermining and destroying American power and the U.S. global order is a new strategic challenge that we've never faced before.
You know, a lot of attention back on Ukraine. I wanted to get your thoughts on this new general who's coming in, Alexander Vortnikov. I guess he's known for his brutality, particularly in Syria, targeting civilians and then ramping it up here to put the fear of God into them. Of course, that isn't too different from the approach it seems Russia has been taking in Ukraine, but this would lift that substantially, or that's the fear. Is it warranted?
I think it's absolutely warranted, Neil. This guy was known as the butcher of Syria for that short period of time at the beginning of the Syria intervention that he led Russian forces. I think you're right. The Russians have been doing a pretty good job already of massive war crimes bordering on genocide. But what they've been lacking is any kind of centralized command and control to really focus these efforts to completely terrorize the Ukrainian population and depopulate Ukrainian cities. And General Dvornikov may be the man to try and centralize that command and control and make it even more destructive and effective than it's already been to date in destroying Ukrainian morale.
You know, John, I want to pick your brain a little bit on this conversation the president's having with the India prime minister. We've been very tough on China for not condemning what Russia is doing. We've been much less so with India. And you could argue that India is buying more oil from the Russians than China is at this point, if we're to believe some of those numbers. And while it has not condemned Russia and certainly not agitated things to the point that China is blaming the West, we've given it a pass. Why?
Well, I mean, India is just too big. It's obviously a fellow democracy, Neil. It is one of, the two, together with China, really rising economies in the world. And the Indians and Chinese have been at each other's throats for decades. So the hope, this big strategic play here is that you will eventually be able to bring the Indians over into an American-led alliance to counter China in Asia. That's still the play. I think it's right. Hopefully, in private, the president is being very tough with Modi, and our European partners are being tough with Modi. That his future, India's future, as a major economy and a democracy, lies with the West, not with a failing, autocratic, tyrannical Russia, whose economy is about to go into the toilet.
It's interesting. We focus on Russia's economy and the problems it has. It's down about 10 to 15%. But the actual financial hit to Ukraine has been far greater, down about 45%. What do you make of that and the pressure it might put on Ukraine to find a negotiated settlement?
Yeah, I mean, Ukraine is, the subject of a massive war that we haven't seen anything the likes of since World War II. Russian territory and Russian economic targets are kind of off limits to the Ukrainians. So this is not really a fair fight. And Ukraine is going to be extremely dependent on both massive quantities of Russian arms, especially with this new offensive coming in the east and the south, and undoubtedly on massive Western international financial and economic assistance to keep them fighting another day to ensure that Putin can't achieve his strategic objectives here. It's going to be very, very costly, Bill, for the West and for the United States.
Real quickly, if you don't mind my going back to China for a second here. We've always been on the fear that China will start offering military aid to Russia, or certainly more economic assistance. But do you think China looks around at the economic, isolation of Russia now, and the fact that Vladimir Putin himself has been sort of, pinned into a corner, that they don't want to go that way? They're 20 times the size of Russia, right? Their economy would take a far, far greater hit, and it would be far more lethal to them economically if the type of sanctions and punishments we put on Russia, we put on China. Do you think that gives them pause? They might talk a good game. They might rail against what's going on, but they're not going to do anything.
Well, there's no question it gives them pause, Neil. I think the Chinese are playing a very, very delicate balancing act here. I don't think they had a clue, like most of us didn't have a clue, just how poorly and catastrophically the Russian military would fail here, would get bogged down. I don't think they believed, as Putin didn't believe, that the United States and the West were capable of cohering in the way that they have and slapping these kinds of very powerful economic sanctions on Russia. I don't think the Chinese want any part of that. They don't want a part of a losing effort. At the same time, they're very eager to see the United States focus somewhere, anywhere other than Asia, and a pivot to Asia. And they're anxious to see America get a bloody nose and weaken its power internationally. So this is difficult for the Chinese, but they've proven themselves masters at not getting too deep with any one side, and certainly not getting in too deep with the losing side, which hopefully will be the Russians in this case.
That's very well put. John, great seeing you again, my friend. John Hannah, following these developments here. We're following Twitter as well. The stock right now more than holding its own here on news that Elon Musk doesn't want to join the Twitter board